I wanted to change the dailies because we had daily meetings every day, and I didn't want that. I want to have like, okay, let's the dailies, let's be written like hard check-ins, written check-ins on Slack, and a few people on the team who didn't like that. I tried to explain that always my point of view is, okay, let's do an experiment. If that didn't work for the whole team, we can go back. So that was my first like assessment of experimentation with the team. Right, the team was maybe at some point opposed to change a few things, but when I put the side of let's do experimentation, they started to embrace more the to adapt to change or try new things.
Welcome to Shapers and Builders, the show about better ways to deliver great software products. Today I'm speaking with Juan Villarejo, CTO and co-founder of Nulinga, an online language learning platform. Before founding Nulinga, Juan founded SinRutina, a subscription service for fitness classes which was acquired by Gympass in 2018. This conversation is part of a series about companies that use ShapeUp, a delivery framework originally created at Basecamp. If you've never heard of ShapeUp, check the show notes for a link to the video Shaping in a Nutshell by Ryan Singer, former head of strategy at Basecamp and author of the book ShapeUp: Stop Running in Circles and Ship Work That Matters. In our conversation, Juan and I dive deep into how he's introduced ShapeUp via a sequence of small steps and small wins, how to protect the team's focus, how to help people move from the builder to the shaper side, and the role of what Juan calls full-stack designers at Nulinga. Juan has been a co-host of 2 meetups for the ShapeUp Practitioners Meetup with me recently, and he has generally been an incredibly active and helpful member of the ShapeUp community. I'm very excited for you to hear what Juan had to say. All right, Juan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Before we get into ShapeUp and all of that, I wanted to ask you if you can please describe just briefly kind of the arc of your career and how you got where you are now.
Okay, perfect. I will try to be brief, but maybe it's a little bit long story. But I study software engineering. Um, I changed my career in the middle because I started studying electronic engineering, but I liked software better. And when I started to programming in Ruby or try some high level language, I kind of fall in love with them. And the electronic engineering aspect was more like um, too low level. And that's why I kind of started growing my career in software engineering. My background is mostly a developer, and then started working for different companies, for mostly software factories that they on the side of consulting. Having have like now it's like 14 years of experience in the industry. Um, I worked as a freelancer also, mainly working as a remote worker for different as a freelancer consulting, and but then I started my own business with some partners. We called it SinRutina. We built our own startup. It was mostly a marketplace for fitness access as a subscription based, maybe similar to what is now Gympass or ClassPass. Um, we ended selling that company. We had an acquisition by Gympass. It was very good for us. We started working with them. We stayed for them with them for 2 years, and that was on 2018, the acquisition, and then to 2020s, just before the pandemic, at the end of 2019, I started another startup, another company for us. It's called Nulinga, where well we started growing a lot. Also is like a language learning solution for B2B for B2B market. We offer language learning solutions and access to language learning teachers with English, Portuguese, and Spanish for the employees of a company, so they can have private tutors. And where we are building all the software, all the operations, all the distribution and commercial side. We are kind of 50-ish employees now.
How do those 50 split across kind of the engineering side, the product org, and other functions?
The areas is commercial side. I will say that half and half. Half is on the supply side and half on the demand side from the distribution, the commercial side, selling and executive account and client success. But on the what I call the demand side, the supply side or the production side is called we have operations, and on the product team, the product area, we have like um, we are 10 people right now. Uh, I will check it, but it's 10. We are like as I always say, what we cannot build right now, we kind of supply that with human power, right? With people executing things on there on the system, manually executing some stuff. We call that operation. But of course, we want to. The whole development team want to build things and automate stuff, so the operation team doesn't scale in the same way of the whole operation, right? The whole business as a scalable company.
One thing I kind of want to make sure is that when people hear your story, that they can kind of in their head compare to themselves how similar is where you are with Nulinga to where they are in their company. And so what you've said is you are about 50 in total, then 10 on the kind of product side. And the company was founded in 2019. Would you still call yourself kind of early stage startup, or how would you kind of describe the life cycle of the company right now?
It's an early startup in terms of the business size. We have 1 million ARR mostly near right at that. So in kind of that we are an early startup, but our goals this year, as same as other startup, is to aim for profitability, and we are going for a break even in a few months. So that's okay. We want to be owner of our own domain and in terms of our own future in that way, so we don't need external funding in order to keep the operations, right, and keep on growing. Of course, growing will be a little slower, but the objectives are are those, and we kind of want to keep pursuing this business because we think there's a good opportunity.
Nice, sounds good. Fingers crossed. You mentioned Shape Up, so why don't we kind of get into that?
Perfect.
And to kick things off there, I wanted to ask you, how did you get into Shape Up, and
Mhm.
what were your first encounters with it? What was your initial reaction, maybe?
Well, I was a big follower of Basecamp from the early Signal Binoise blog, and I was reading a lot about. Well, I'm a Ruby on Rails user from Rails 3, right? So I'm very fan of Rails and also Ruby. So the thing is that when I saw, I also very fond of some of their philosophies. I try to hire managers of one and try to to have small teams, very streamlined. Me as an entrepreneur and builder, I had a very good I don't know, knowledge or tacit knowledge from what I need to do from a raw idea to ship it, right? But when we were writing epics for Scrum and planning, the thing is that when I wanted to delegate those into the development team because as a very early startup, I wanted to keep on building things. Right, the more productivity was on my side because I have the business, I have some ideas from design in terms of interactive design or flow design, and also I have technical knowledge for implementing it. So I wanted to keep on doing because if I become full managed, I my the productivity of the whole team will go down. And it wasn't working like that because when I delegated some epics on some my raw ideas for the development team for each of the developers, they were just constantly asking me things, right? Because the idea wasn't shaped, the idea even wasn't framed. At least it was okay. We want to do this. Okay, that's the user story, right, or the epic story, and the developers should write I was expecting on that side to developers to write user stories or at least help them write the user stories in terms of there. But it wasn't enough, right? Because they would keep constantly asking me, okay, I did this. Now, what's the decision about this? What's the decision about that? Maybe because our hiring budget wasn't high enough. I was they were very oriented product engineering, but they still were some they didn't have too much experience on some sides, so they were asking me also some technical aspects. I didn't matter about the technical aspects because I can help them, and we try to work with pull requests and review stuff and have a common knowledge. But there was some struggle in terms of that I didn't have enough time to dedicate. I will becoming full managed, and it wasn't working as expected um, in terms of it was being demanded all the time. I didn't like that.
And that was pre 2019.
Second quarter of 2020.
By that time, I'm sure you must have heard already of Shape Up or the early kind of ideas floating around, right?
Hmm.
In various blog articles.
Exactly.
Um, so what did you do?
I wanted to change the dailies because we had daily meetings every day, and I didn't want that. I want to have like okay, the dailies let's be written like hard check-ins, written check-ins on Slack, but let's stop doing some daily meetings synchronous. On that, I put that on the retrospective. For me, this wasn't working, and a few people on the team who didn't like that, didn't like that proposal from my side. I tried to explain that okay, my always my point of view is okay. Let's do an experiment for these two sprints. If that didn't work for the whole team, we can go back. Nothing is written on stone. So that was my first like assessment of experimentation with the team. Right, the team was maybe at some point opposed to change a few things, but when I put the side of let's do experimentation, they started to embrace more the to adapt to change or try new things. Um, because these people were coming from also from other companies that do very by the book Scrum, right? And when I wanted to introduce Shape Up, I also try the same, and we have like three developers and two designers at that time. So the Scrum was the sprint was 2 weeks per sprint, and what I did was propose propose a 3 weeks per sprint, right? Let's do 3 weeks per sprint on that side. Let's try it. And once I have that set and the people were comfortable, okay, we have three, 3 weeks per sprint. What I did was to try one developer and on the next cycle, one developer and one designer to work as a shape up to a method, like a proof of concept, separate like an experiment, and um, for of course shape up says okay we can do an appetite we can do cycle of 6 weeks, but I didn't care about that. I think okay, I took the appetite or this week cycle. The number of weeks per cycle can be changed because it's not written on stone. It depends on the projects that you have. So I understood that. I understood that the that was on myself and how much do I want to bet on the projects. And I say we can do some projects like 3 weeks, so we can. I don't have to change that too. Also for the whole team. So that's why I started to shape a project. I try some three. I say okay, let's do 3 weeks plus one, right? It's 1 month on that side, and well, that went well. The project went smoothly, and the team the team was very happy to deliver something. I was very comfortable because what changed in that project, um, what think that project proved is that okay, during the cycle, this proof of concept cycle, I help the team. I still help the team and be with them with some help them with some requirements. But I was helping them mostly on some technical aspect on how to solve some things in the technical way because I was CTO too. But I didn't. Mm, but that those problems that they had wasn't blocking problems that they could continue or doing some work. They were just helping them in terms of quality of the output, quality of the software. But I didn't have to be on mostly every day or maybe on demand about decisions about the business of decisions about the flow, decisions about the interaction, decisions about the what the user is expecting in some parts because it was written and it was clarified on the pitch. And now it's called package, but now on the pitch. Um, and that's what it made me a click. Okay, I I can help them from the technical side. I like to be on them. I can also most it's more asynchronous because we do some pull requests and I can write them there. But I don't need mm, to kind of how do you say go into the rabbit hole every time during the cycle, right? That was what myself and the team really liked about ShapeUp.
So just so I make sure I get it right, what you mentioned was kind of this move from 2 week sprints up to 3 week sprints, and in that and then you kind of also split the team where you kind of created these cycle teams, these kind of shape up teams of one developer and one designer. And in that process, were you also removing yourself as an active contributor? In that, in this, when you were still working with Scrum, I assume you were kind of actively working on tickets yourself, and that changed in the process as well.
I didn't have to help them. What should we do, right? Because the what should we do was defined on the pitch. Before during Scrum, I was the the answer to the question what should we do had to be answered mostly. I won't say every day, but 2 or 3 times per week. That answer, what should we do now? What should we do now? Was being answered every time and constantly on demand, and that's that's very difficult if you want to think about also the other projects or the other problems that appear on the business side, on the software side, um, and plan what should we do next, right? Okay, now we are working with this, but what are we going to work next? And I couldn't think about that because I was on always on demand about what should we do now.
How did you justify to the team that you wanted to kind of move to 3 week sprints and pull yourself out of kind of daily or weekly questions about what do we do? Did you mention shape up as a thing to the team at that moment?
Yeah. I mentioned shape up to the team. I think I like to experiment with new things, to try new things in terms of the process, right? And then okay, we are working with this process. What can we improve? And the retrospective also helped that to acknowledge and know about the team how the process was working. And I think on that side, I think the retrospectives helped me in order to introduce to the team their Scrum retrospectives, because that was the as I said, and I introduced that it was a safe space for us to talk what was not working, and having this experimentation view or mindset put set on the team before, because I changed the dailies, I proposed change the dailies, and the team knew, okay, oh, this experimentation went good. Okay, I think those that side, uh, maybe I, with that perspective, I gather more trust as a leader for the team, because leaders we need to be trusted as a team, and propose and bring safety in those terms. Hey, because so I sense that the team was having some struggles. So okay, this is going to change, and what if it doesn't work? We will continue doing that, because I think some companies maybe just impose some things, and if they don't, the team isn't comfortable with that, they keeping doing that, right? But I clarified with the team, hey, with changing the dailies, if it doesn't work, we go back. If or if it doesn't work, let's know what didn't work, and let's fix that. I'm always fond of this kind of feedback loop from the process and iteration, not only with the product but the whole company and the whole processes. And that was one main point that I gained trust with the team. And when I proposed Shape Up, and they say, okay, let's try it.
So you kind of you built up to it. You got the team used through these little changes
Exactly.
to kind of to a bigger change.
Maybe similar to the myth or the story of the toad in a in a stove that is being boiled, right? You kind of
Yeah.
turn the heat a little bit slow, so it doesn't feel that the change was from one moment to the other quickly.
Just not with the outcome of kind of an untimely death.
No, of course. This outcome is trying to be better for the whole team and the process and the business.
So before when we spoke, you also mentioned to me that you went to I think it was called the Shape and Chip workshop, or I don't remember, but it was in 2020 in Chicago, right? At the Basecamp
No,
offices?
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Oh,
Read all the I read all the stuff that Ryan wrote. I saw all the videos, including the one from Christopher Alexander, and introduced me to Christopher Alexander, that I really liked, pattern languages and timeless way of building. Uh, I kind of focus just every day. I try to, so maybe I saw the videos multiple times. The how we work videos that were like different steps. I saw it multiple times and trying to understand principles before that, because previously I knew also the whole process. I knew I like to read a lot, right? And I knew the processes um of software building from Scrum to Kanban, these more agile attitudes. I knew them from practice. I knew them from experience working in these for factories or consultancies. But bef- just when I was on SinRutina, at the end of SinRutina, and also starting Nulinga, and we wanted to hire more people, I wanted to get into the deep, right, about this whole new software building stuff. And I started to reading a lot of books like Kanban in Action, or other books that are from for Scrum, Agile Coaching, and get into the idea about that. So when I started learning about ShapeUp and the videos on how we work from Ryan and Basecamp, I got into I was mapping the principles, right? I was okay. Some principles are from come from the Toyota production system and Lean way, and is building introduce some principles, new principles, but some of the stuff is still there from the agile perspective way that I think. And what the course that I made with Ryan was the hands off course. That was really also very insightful for us in order for the transition between okay, we have the pitch, and then I give it to the squad. We call squad the team that will implement it, the delivery team. Okay, how do they start? How do we negotiate some things that didn't appear, didn't were previously solved on the shaping sessions on the shape up. Uh, so that hands off workshop was very interesting for me.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
It was a virtual workshop that Ryan made.
I want to switch gears a bit and get into some deep dives. But before we do that, I want to just quickly fast forward to kind of to the setup you have now. So, if you could just run quickly through kind of the cycle length you have now, how you do cooldowns or ramp ups, the team setup in the cycle teams, and just kind of yeah the basic pillars of your implementation now.
I have two squads working on proactive projects, that is these strategic projects, and I have one, we called it the pivot, or pivot, or the um, that is working on reactive things, and mainly on reactive things, more small task, bug fixing, maybe improvements, refactors that we can do, some spikings, etc. That is kind of, we have this for each cycle. Now we are doing 6 week cycles, because what we changed from three to, at that time we changed from three to 3+1, 3 cycle work and +1 cooldown. Then we changed to 4+2, but then at some time the projects were becoming more complex because as already we have a lot of things built, and in order, of course, if you change one thing, okay, it affects the business rule on another part, and the projects are becoming larger and larger. And they say, okay, in order to achieve good quality, and what I sensed was that the team with 4 weeks +2 was kind of, they were shipping on the cooldown, right? And I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to ship and streamline uh, by the 5th week. I want them to be shipped, and the 6th week is kind of okay. Let's fix some bugs that appear that we didn't kind of map. And the cooldown are moments for us to, okay, do a retrospective. We kind of keep that to the retrospective of the team. We are like 10 people. It's kind of a small team, um, to be able to manage a retrospective meeting. And also we do some refactors, maybe some improvements that were left from other projects before, and also um, we do this kind of hands-off exercise by the end of the cooldown and start of the next cycle. Um, I am the one who do all the shaping now. After, but on this current cycle, I'm working with another designer, one of the designers of the team. But I wanted for him to be able to learn and to be able to shape and think some things. And also, um, I I will say that me as having different multiple hats, sometimes I like to be on the call, right? And maybe sometimes when I have to shape some things, I procrastinate them. And on that way, I really like the shaping sessions with other person, because we are kind of focused on the problem and trying to solve and thinking about that and the business rules in the same or similar way as you do with the pair programming session, right? I see that way. Okay, a pair programming for me was very comfortable, and I liked working on that because two people are working, two developers are working in a problem that is kind of maybe hard sometimes, or and if and you are hyper focused on the problem, and you know that it's a problem that if you have to do it alone, you will procrastinate it, because it's kind of, okay, this is a boring problem, or I don't want to do that, I'm trying with that. And if you do with another person, you kind of uh, feel I for myself, my sentiments are kind of, I feel happy when I'm working on boring stuff with someone else. It's kind of more
Yeah, for
easy.
sure.
So in kind of on that way, I'm not saying that shaping session or shaping some stuff is boring, but I tend to procrastinate them or pay attention to other stuff that is going on, right? And so when I, okay, let's do
Yeah.
this meeting session, and when I commit with another person, I it tends to go better.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the conversation. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening and to let you know about the Shapers and Builders job board. On shapers.builders, yes, that's the domain, you'll find jobs in software development, design, product management, and other roles at companies that work with ShapeUp. Many of these roles are remote, and teams who use ShapeUp generally run at a more sustainable, healthy, and meaningful pace than the hamster wheel of 2-week sprints. So if you're looking for a job in tech or trying to find great people, head over to the Shapers and Builders job board at shapers.builders. Now let's turn back to the conversation. So you mentioned how you've been working now with a designer to kind of train them as a shaper, so you wouldn't be the only shaper anymore. And that is actually a perfect segue into one of the deep dives that I wanted to do with you. To take just one step back, the way I kind of set this up is because you've been such an active member of the ShapeUp forum. I actually went in and picked 4 of your comments, which I wanted to kind of grill you a bit on.
Okay.
And now the order is getting a bit out of line, but one of them actually is, and let's just pick that one, how to help people move from the builder side over to the shaper side. And you actually, in this post that you wrote on that topic, you said, we are experiencing this. One person, a developer of the team, started to think more about the product and wanted to start shaping, my approach was to ask them to write three major problems or ideas he wanted to pitch. After that, I told him what I suspected would provide more value to the user, and he started to write a pitch. Um, so it seems like that is a different story, but maybe you can just kind of expand a bit on
Of
how
course,
you think about helping people into the shaper role.
what I sense on that, I gave them to think about the three problems I wanted to try and write some pitch, right? And then what I did was to review with them, or maybe do a a shaping session with them, or answer some questions. Doing that side, I will change that how you say that comment. I will do it in different way.
Mhm.
I will give them the problem, and they will shape the things in order for them to solve. Because the first the first step is to now, after I did the course on shaping in real life with Ryan, um, and the post he wrote about okay, framing and shaping, I think the value change, the value the value chain of the whole software delivery process, I kind of have it mapped in the whole in my whole mind, and Ryan did perfectly that. It's kind of from raw idea, you pass to framing the idea, and the output of a framing is just a frame idea with the constraint of a bed of the appetite, and and on that side, okay, now we have a frame problem, right? We have the outcome and the context, and then after that we have uh, the shaping process, the shaping step, the shaping phase, and that we produce a solution that can go with all the context and the problem and the appetite we have. And also, sorry, the frame, the output is also okay, who is going for us, for example, is who is going to attack this problem, because also the shaping changes if some experienced developer has more experience with the domain. Is not the shaping won't be the same as if a more junior or less experimented person of the domain has to work on that. So um, on that side, then the shaping, then the hands off, then the delivery, and then some the cooldown again, and some Q&A. But the thing is that taking a person that is on the delivery team, and then putting to work on some on to think about some problems, uh, I think will be a very long jump for them to do it
Mhm.
well, because it will jump and skip the shaping. It will go skip and to the framing and the problem, right, on the on the side. They will just from raw idea go to shaping, but okay, they won't think about okay, why are we doing this, or is it this important. So on that perspective, what I will do is okay, we have these frame problems, okay, try to shape it, and then we review it. Also, what I'm doing with this designer is okay, we have this problem, I frame the problem, and I don't do this kind of shaping, and then we reviewing, we kind of meet into the in the shaping session, sorry. And what we do there is I try for him to provide the answers or think about them. Maybe sometimes I know what we can do in terms of technical or aspect side, on terms of business. What I try to do is come on, is letting him think before, and not giving them solution. Try to asking them questions, or okay, and what do you think with that, and when do you and what problem does it have, right? Just guide them Socratic way or kind of that.
One thing that is kind of connected to what we talked about was I found a post of yours where you were talking about the role of designers within ShapeUp, and that is a question that I see come up quite frequently. And you were talking about something that you called a full stack designer, and you compared it kind of to a full stack engineer understanding. Um, can you maybe explain how what you call a designer on your team, kind of what parts of the kind of the process of product development that entails? Where does a designer start? Where does it stop? How is the role? How are the responsibilities of that role? And how does it maybe also map to shaping versus building?
I'm very fond of designers in the way Basecamp has their designers in terms of they can write HTML and they can write CSS, because um, they can. I worked before in some software consultancies on some freelancing that they gave me the Figma file or something like that, and it was very high fidelity. And if they didn't know HTML or say CSS or some kind of how the uh, web development kind of works for the browser, is kind of, yeah, we cannot do that, right? And that was a struggling moment for me as a developer, and also I see that with developers that when a designer that doesn't know the medium, or doesn't know how to implement the medium in some ways, they don't have to be experts on that, but they should be able to kind of write that and learn and be able to map an idea.
Is it just about knowing the medium, or is it also about being able to implement the work in what I've seen other teams then call rather a front end engineer, for example?
My designers in our development team, in our product team, don't know JavaScript. So uh, in that way, they can have an HTML, and then and they can write CSS very well, but they don't are a full front end engineer. Um, I wanted to keep a team as small as possible because maybe our budget or maybe our goals or things like that. So in those ways, I want to be able to, as because I, that's why one of the main things about Rails is Ruby on Rails is that it's very easy to ship something, right? Because it's everything stuck on the is it has everything, every tool that you need for the stack to solve a software problem. And in that way, I always like to work with full stack developers, because I don't need a team of two um, with development skills for two people with this similar development skills working on the same project, because the nodes of communication grow exponentially, right? If two people on the squad are much better than three people. Also, I struggled with that. At first, we had two developers and one designer, and what happened on that side is the develop the developers were working very concurrently between them, and the designer was kind of maybe out of some decisions because the developers move faster in terms of technical stuff. Now, what I saw with that is that, okay, I take out one developer and put the developer and designer together, and they have to be able to talk with each other and decide. So now the designer is learning more some technical stuff, and the developer is learning more design stuff. We are because what I think is that we tend to stick with what is comfortable for us, and for a developer, it's more comfortable to talk with another developer than uh, talking with designer with different skills and different mindset.
So can you just explain briefly what a full stack designer
Yeah,
is for you?
totally. For me, a full stack designer is someone who can think about uh, interactions flow, to be able to think about the flow of a use case of a solution, with maybe do some breadboarding, or and think about the different screens or steps and the affordances that it should have for the user to solve, to make progress, and also to be able to work in a delivery team and in an artistic way for him or her, to deliver a good quality in terms of aesthetics for the project, um, and also to be able to interview at least a user and be able to know what are the struggle is, to know what questions can be asked in order for the user to know, for the team, to the product team, to know what should we do or what is this person struggling with. So that, of course, when you kind of have more general skills or kind of try to map different things, it's very difficult to be a specialist in some aspects, right? But I think in the current stage of our product or current stage of the business, the that level of specialization will fill the rest of the 90 to the 100%, right? It wouldn't be too from the really 80% of the stuff we are building can be solved with this kind of these different full stack skills, and in a very cost effective way.
In that sense, though, if I'm understanding you right, a designer is spanning the world of being a shaper, which would be their skills about understanding problems, speaking with users, and kind of ideating through solutions on the shaping side. And then also, because you mentioned this in the beginning, part of a builder team, kind of a cycle team.
Exactly, exactly. That's for me a full stack designer, to be able to map this kind of three hats, or three circles of skills, and be able to think about the solution and try to think at least from the flow to the UI artistic way.
So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was how to protect the cycle teams from outside distraction.
Our business is kind of, we try to provide a full learning solution, so we kind of connect with the meetings, arrange scheduling, kind of have the whole editor and content for the we have a learning team that generates the content for giving them, for the teachers to give the classes. We have some administrations part of the platform. We have the clients, as we give B2B. We are a B2B company. Um, we give our clients, the companies, we give them like a portal for them to track how the usage is, and some metrics. So we have a lot of things going on our platform, right? And if you have a lot of things going on, that, of course, it doesn't matter if your quality of software is good, you will have more bugs because a lot of more is going on. And on those side, I think, okay, we still have to have some slack to provide time for be able to solve or track some the problems that are occurring on our platform, because our domain the main context is huge. So in that way, that's why I decided to just split the in two tracks side and have, okay, we have strategic problems that we are attacking proactively and planned, and we have reactive problems that are attacked by a pivot developer that is working on that. And it's if he or she has some slack, it's okay. They can work on a refactor, they can work on some improvements, they can do some spiking for the next cycle. I don't care if they are having some slack. And this, the main important problem is that this pivot person should change should change for each cycle, because maybe it's a boring task to be continually being done, right? To If someone is committed for the whole year to do some tasks, it will be boring for him or her. So it will be good to rotate, to have this rotation and the pivot. Now in this cycle, I'm the pivot.
Cool. I mean, guess the team will be glad to see you also step into this quote unquote boring role.
Hmm. Exactly.
I want to wrap up with some kind of quick fire questions, some reflective questions to you. And the first one I want to ask you is, what advice would you give to other teams trying Shape Up? And to frame this, I would say, think about what would you tell Juan, who's living in a parallel universe that's kind of off by 3 to 4 years? That's you 3 years ago. What would you tell yourself?
What I think now about Shape Up is that you don't have to take the the book is just, it was one phase of the Shape Up methodology. It was just, okay, it was mapping all the knowledge, and it was a starting point, right? Now the other teams that are improving are trying that, are finding some things that they didn't map out. That's why I really like this the latest course by Ryan, because it's kind of the whole value change is mapped. And you don't have to. And also important aspect that he changed the term of the rabbit hole into an analogy that he called them a time bomb. That the rabbit holes are time bombs that if you don't that you have to diffuse. If you don't diffuse those time bombs previously or before the delivery cycle, those bombs will explode, or you will have to uh, have an anti-bomb team, or maybe an anti-bomb squad that gather at that point to take a decision. And then one of the aspects of Shape Up that I learned through the time, that it mainly shape up and changing the shaping previously or taking decisions up front, that later, that's the main difference from Scrum, is that some decisions should be taken up front, because it will demand a lot of people to gather for diffusing these bombs later, because some decisions should be answered with some business perspective, some design perspective, and those persons or those people maybe aren't available at that time, and that will cause a struggle for the delivery team. And that's why I try to think, okay, shaping is about taking the important decision up front for the delivery team to work autonomously. It's not to be. You can gather those principles with the book, like um, the constraints are and the rabbit holes. Now I like them better to call them the fuse time bombs. Um, that's one of the main aspects. And also when people say that shaping is an agile or like that, that I saw sometimes, it's like, yeah, it's the 6 weeks can be changed. You don't have to work on 6 weeks. Those the how many weeks do you have on the cycle? It depends on the stage of the building process you are, the stage of the business you are right now, or the what you are building right now, and it can be changed. You can do some 3 weeks. It depends on the projects, how much constraint you want to put on the projects. The time is a constraint for you to design the solutions, and those can be changed. um, that's why the main principle, the appetite, is isn't written on stone that it should be 6 weeks, and the decisions taken up front are not for not to be agile or to be a waterfally thing, but to think about the resource allocation later.
Wrapping up now, I want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing your experience, your team's experience. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch and hear more on your perspective or exchange ideas with you?
Well, I'm fully on LinkedIn, and try to kind of my LinkedIn is mostly a lot of things about ShapeUp, and on Twitter maybe, but my Twitter is more broad ideas and a lot of Nassim Taleb ideas that I'm very fond of his book and his work. But on LinkedIn, mostly I'm posting a lot of shape up ideas, and if someone from Spanish speaking businesses are trying to do some shape up or are working on shape up, I want to kind of gather a community of Spanish speaking shapers.
That's great. Then I'll make sure to put your LinkedIn handle, link to your LinkedIn profile into the show notes. And so people definitely should get in touch there. Thank you so much. It was really great to hear your experience today.
Thank you, David, for this invitation, and I hope this helps other people.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Juan. I certainly did. If you like this show, it really goes a long way if you leave a favorable review wherever you are listening to this. And to find jobs at companies that work with ShapeUp, like Nulinga, remember to check out shapers.builders. Yes, that really is the domain. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.